terrible. I know. Good morning. I'm Gregory Mason. Welcome to First Presbyterian Church for Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church's service. We'll start with some announcements. Bid with Your Heart and Soul online auction is May 15th to 19th. Yesterday, you received an email with information regarding the auction with all kinds of ideas for donations. The website to register, donate, and bid is now open. Please be generous with your donations, and please be generous with your bidding once bidding opens on May 15th. This is a major fundraiser for our church, which helps support the programming and staffing here. I mentioned last week, I did get my pictures taken of some of the items I want to donate, and now I can upload them with their descriptions. And Suzanne has some announcements.
These are announcements from the 8th Principal Committee. As a follow-up to the open conversation concerning the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we will be reading The Lemon Tree, an Arab, a Jew, and the Heart of the Middle East. We will meet on Zoom to discuss this book on April 17th and 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. Also, next Sunday, the Transformational Justice Task Force and the 8th Principal Committee will be offering an open conversation from 12:30 to 2 in Ehrman Hall, led by the Reverend Darren Utley and Dante Cottingham. They will explore the inhumane conditions in the Wisconsin state prison system and point to possible solutions and actions, and lunch will be served.
Lunch is always good. If you are part of the Good Shepherd Committee and did not get an email recently from Shirley Reynolds, please let her know. She had to reconstruct the list of the Good Shepherds and are missing a few. She would like to get you back on the group list as soon as possible. Today is the last day that you can RSVP, that you can attend the free celebration dinner and dance being held this coming Friday, April 12th, for all 2425 pledge donors. Email or call Diane Lang, Dina Lieberman, Linda Weatherby, or Susan Binzel. On the 10th at 7 p.m., a Date with Death Club meeting on Zoom, processing eco-grief. The next Raise Right deadline for paper orders is April 21st. See me if you need a form. April 28th will be the North Beach Sunday morning play, beach cleanup, and breakfast potluck. The nominating committee continues to search for an OBUUC member to serve a 3-year term as treasurer on the Board of Trustees. If you would be this candidate, please contact Anita Miller, the nominating committee chair, or contact any board member directly. And just so you know, you don't need a finance degree or necessarily experience with finance to do this job. We have a bookkeeper that does all that stuff. And you don't have to come to a meeting. It's all on Zoom. So, I mean, you do, but you don't have to go anywhere. Thank you to our volunteers today. Our ushers, Kathy Carson and Joe Cushing, our Zoom host, Jody Spencer, and our coffee hour hosts, Corey Mason and Sharon Petrock. For more information and details about all these announcements, along with others and community announcements, see your weekly emails. Please join us for coffee hour in Ehrman Hall following the service. For those joining us on YouTube, log into Zoom after the service for your coffee hour. The link is in today's email.
Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Danielle Lindstrom. My pronouns are she, hers, and it is good to be together. Welcome. Welcome as we create community. In the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes, and sizes that come together in your uniqueness, in all of the ways that you experience and express gender, in the beauty that is who you love and how you love. Welcome as we create community together. Welcome to those joining us online. Let's wave to our beloveds online, both now and in the future. Welcome. Welcome to our co-created and shared sacred space. For each time we gather, we have the opportunity to be changed, to grow, to be more expansive, filled with more wonder and possibility. We create this space together imperfectly and beautifully, held always by a liberating love. It is good to be together. We begin our sacred time together. We begin our services with a chalice lighting, and Lyra will be lighting our chalice for us this morning. We join with Unitarian Universalists all across the world in lighting our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our words this morning, "We are one," by the Reverend Carol Thomas Sissel. We are one. We are one. We are family. We are connected by blood and bone, mind and heart, and sometimes bricks and mortar. Like the finest woven tapestries of old and the spices blended and stirred into our secret family recipes, our lives are intentionally intertwined. And we are fashioned into a stronger community by those connections, this interlacing, intermingling of our existence makes each of us whole. This interlacing of our lives makes us whole, happiness and sorrow. This intertwining of our lives makes us whole, blessings and burdens. This intermingling of our lives makes us whole, lament and laughter. We allow the magic and the mystery, often named spirit, to keep us connected long after today's service has ended. Come, let us worship together this morning. I invite you now to rise in body and in spirit to join in our first hymn. This is number 298 in the gray hymn book, "Wake Now My Senses."
And now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart can come on forward. So this morning, I'm going to need some helpers. This morning I need Reverend Danielle, and then so come on up here, and then I need 6 other people. So I've got Sage, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that 7 altogether? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The story I'm going to tell this morning is called The Journey of the Birds. Okay, you ready? Once upon a time, all the birds in the land decided they needed a leader for their community. A leader, they thought, would make the community stronger. Representatives of all the bird species gathered, your representatives of the bird species, gathered finding a leader. A leader will tell us the right things to do, said the robin. Who wants to be the robin? Sage the robin. A leader must be wise, said the owl. An owl goes over in this family. Abby likes owls, so that's why. A leader must believe we each are important, big and small, said the finch. Lyra, you want to be the finch? Or actually, Lila, you're nice and small. Why don't you be the finch? I want the leader to be caring like a friend, said the dove. Oh, Lyra, this is perfect for you. Yes, the leader should help us share and get along better, said the cardinal. The leader must make us feel safe, said the hawk. No, it can't be this one. This is Reverend Danielle. I know where we can find such a leader, said the hoopy bird. It is the smorg, and it lives far from here. There's the hoopy bird. The birds were very excited. They said they were willing to go anywhere to find such a leader. It might be dangerous, said the hoopy bird. That's Reverend Danielle. A few birds looked troubled, but all the birds voted to go find the smorg. You ready now? The hoopy took off, and all the birds followed. So you're going to fly looking for the smorg. So get up. Follow the smorg. They flew at night. They flew in sunshine. Days and days passed. Some birds got tired and left the group. Other birds were filled with doubt. How did they know the smorg really existed? Only the hoopy had ever heard of this bird. Some of the doubters dropped out, but others kept flying. One valley was filled with fiery mountains. All the birds were afraid. Now here's the finch talking. I'm too small to make it over that mountain, lamented the finch. No, keep flying. We can make it together. We will help you. And they did. The strong flyers helped the weaker flyers. The birds with good vision helped find food for the group. Along the journey, the birds learned how to better respect, share, and care for each other. It seemed that every bird had something special and unique to offer that made the journey easier. Finally, the hoopy announced, "We're here!" The other birds looked around in anticipation. "Where's the smorg?" "We don't see it," they cried. "Come, it's over here," said the hoopy. The birds stood beside Hoopy and realized they were on the edge of a lake. They looked in, and they saw the reflections. Then they understood. The smorg was not another bird. The smorg was all of them, and all of them were the smorg. They remembered that each of them had something good and strong and special inside of them, and that each bird had gifts to bring in the community. They were all that was needed to keep the community going. They knew now that together they could do anything. Okay, now it's time for our children's blessing. Okay, you ready? We are blessed. We are blessed by being We are blessed by being here. We are blessed by being here together.
Please join in singing our sung children's response in the order of service. There are many ways we give to the life of our church, and the monetary offering is just one of these ways. Each month, we partner with a local organization that is doing really great work in our community, and we share the money that we gather. Our partner for April is Racine Women for Social Justice, whose work unites and empowers Racine area women through education, conversation, critical analysis, collective action, and leadership to identify, interrupt, and dismantle racism in the community. We are so excited to be partnering, and Lisa Gonzalez is going to come share more about this organization with us.
Thank you guys for having me here today. Really excited. Sorry that Kelly Scroggins, who is our executive director, isn't able to be here. But part of being in Racine Women for Racial Justice is that sometimes you have to show up last minute. Sometimes you have to show up when it's important, right? Not always when it's convenient, but you need to show up when you're called, right? And so I got a call this morning, I can't make it, can you go? And I love that about Racine Women for Racial Justice, because that is part of our call to action, is that when there's a call that you show up. And one of the things that I love most about the things that we do there is that it's a group of women who work together to fight for justice, to fight for equality, to fight for equity, to fight for space, for people to be heard, for people to heal. And I've been a part of this organization and on their board of directors for the last 2 years. And I'm just so proud of the work that they are doing and showing up into spaces. Racine Women for Racial Justice has a justice initiative. They have a whole group of women that come together to show up in the courtroom, to show up in spaces where people don't have advocacy, in places where what is said and what is heard really matters, to hold people accountable for what they say and for what they hear. And I think it's just such an important position to be in the community, to sit in a courtroom. It's an important position to be able to, and not just a courtroom, every courtroom, right? To have somebody who's willing from the community to be there, to say, I'm just here to sit in this space to make sure that this is done right. And I know that that advocacy in my life has made a difference when people showed up for me. And I know that that advocacy for others and those who are experiencing, specifically in our community, issues in regards to race and things that are unfair. And I just love that about them. One of the things that we do that I've been an integral part of, I believe, is courageous conversations, right? Sometimes you just have to create the space to have the conversation and to have people with all of the voices, with all of the representation, all in one room to say, here is a topic, and we're not afraid to talk about it anymore. We're not afraid to dive deep into it. We're not afraid of clashing opinions, right? We're in a safe place where we can take all of our real life experiences and all of the things that make us uniquely who we are and our perceptions and perspectives, and we can bring them into a space and have the tough conversation. Sometimes those conversations come with correction. How many of us are like, love being corrected? Yeah. It doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good, especially if it's not through love or a gentle correction or a place where if you've been doing something for such a long period of time and you have some people no idea, some people a ton of idea that they're not doing it well, right? To be in a space to say, hey, after today, we no longer do it this way. We no longer talk about it this way. We no longer show up in this space. And you're encouraged and empowered then to leave that space and make a difference in whatever your area of influence is. I love that too. We all come from a different space of influence. I run after school programs in the city of Milwaukee, and I'm part of Restoration Ministries here in Racine, and that is my space of influence. And each of us have a different space of influence, whether it be the influence in your home, in your workplace, in your community, and we can take what we learn after having courageous conversations into those spaces and really make a difference. I love that we have a court closet. If you guys have never heard of that, there's a lot of statistics on how people show up at court, and what they wear matters and what their sentencing is. Doesn't that almost seem silly to even hear that? And so we have a court closet where men and women who are about to enter into the courtroom can get an outfit, can have something to wear to look presentable, because if they continue to wear orange or green jumpsuits, their sentences in some cases triple. The longevity of the time that they'll serve based on what they wore into one space or one meeting changes. And we know what that's like, to have someone judge us by one thing, judge us by something that maybe, in their case, they don't even have control over. This is the outfit you were given. And so our court closet is a great space for people to be able to come and to say, hey, we're going to donate to that. We're going to make room for people to show up in spaces so that they can actually get, I don't want to say the word judged, but you're in a courtroom, right? But based off of facts and not off of perception. And that's really just a great thing. Every year we throw an event. It's an evening of excellence, and we just are there to honor people in the community who are doing justice work, who are showing up, and that's not always, it's not always the easiest work. A lot of us have lost a seat at the table in our families. A lot of us have lost a seat at the table in our social communities. To be able to come and to say, no longer will we accept these certain things. And the Evening of Excellence is a way for us to celebrate the way that people are showing up for justice in our community, and to honor them and to celebrate them. And it's one of my favorite evenings because it brings a diverse group of people into a room intentionally. And I think when that happens, magic happens. And so I'm grateful that you guys have allowed me to share about Racine Women for Racial Justice. We do have a website. If you just Google Racine Women for Racial Justice, we are always looking for people who have a justice heart. You know that's you, right? You know if it's you. If you're someone who's like, this is not unfair, and you got a fight in you, it really does take a lot of people to come alongside and to show up to make a difference in the lives of people who live in the margins. And that's what our goal is to be in the margin, to live in the margin, and to be in a space where other people sometimes are afraid to go. And so there's a cost to that, but it's so incredibly worth it. And so thank you guys for letting me be here today and to share.
we take time in this shared sacred space to lift up and into love what is on our hearts. This morning, I want to talk just a little bit, about the violence that's happening in our world, and we'll share a moment of silence. So will you just join me in a breath? These words shared by Reverend Katie Scudera. It has been exactly 6 months since the horrible attack by Hamas on southern Israel that killed 1,200 people, physically injured thousands more, with 250 people taken hostage. As Unitarian Universalists, we condemn such acts of terrorism and mourn with those whose loved ones were killed and kidnapped. And we know in the past 6 months, the Israeli military response has killed over 30,000 Gazans, including over 10,000 children, injured 70,000 more, and internally displaced nearly 2 million people. As Unitarian Universalists, we condemn this ongoing violence against civilians, and as our national denomination has declared, we work for a ceasefire and unrestricted human aid. So many groups, local and international, have worked for justice, self-determination, and peace in Israel and Palestine for over 75 years. We grieve that these efforts have not sufficiently reached the current governments of Israel or Gaza, and that both Gazans and Israelis are suffering due to the violent policies of their elected and unelected officials. And we mourn that the killing of civilians and children can leave a deep soul wound in individual soldiers and in complicit individuals and nations, including our own. And that the violence between Hamas and the Israeli government has incited a terrible rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia worldwide. Spirit of love, be with us as we are aware of the brokenness in our own lives and in the world. We remember those places around the world that is suffering with violence, suffering under fear and hatred, suffering from others' indifference. May we work to welcome a world of peace. So today, let us just hold a moment of silence, adding our individual prayers, our individual hopes to those who are suffering. Will you join me in this shared silence? And part of being in community is sharing our lives with one another. We share our joys, we share our sorrows, trusting, knowing that this space with these beloveds can carry both and all that we hold in between. In just a moment, I will invite you forward to either come and light a candle, or I invite you forward to come and share a joy or a sorrow on your heart, and then light a candle. And in this practice of sharing, we take a moment to remind one another that this isn't the space for announcements, but rather a practice of sharing our lives, of sharing what is ours and only ours to share, with that reminder that we gather virtually as well. Let's open up this space for blessing, this space for prayer together. Spirit of life and love. It is good to be together. Here may we be reminded that all together we hold our joys and our sorrows. Let us be grateful for this space that welcomes us as we are, invites us to practice who we are becoming, holding us in and through continued transition with the reminder that we are not in this moment alone. And I would like to lift into this love and share how grateful I am to this church and for the work that we have done together. And though my time with Olympia Brown will be ending at the end of this church year, it is each and every one of you who will make real the possibility, the awesome, amazing possibility that is Unitarian Universalism. That is Unitarian Universalism here in Racine, because Racine needs it. We need it. So I lift into this love so much gratitude. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to share, or if you would like to come and light a candle in honor of what is on your heart, I invite you forward.
Hi, I'm Christy. I have a joy that yesterday my family got to celebrate together my grandfather's 102nd birthday.
I have a joy that Lisa came to speak. I know Kelly Scroggin so well, and I appreciate everything they do, and a sorrow that you're leaving. We love you, Reverend Danielle.
We light our final candle for the joys and sorrows that are on our hearts, the joys and the sorrows that are on the hearts of our beloveds joining us online. Monica Dobbins writes, "Some say we are made in God's image. But it is equally true, maybe more so, that we make you in our image as well. What sort of God shall I make for myself? Do I imagine you to be everlasting, unchanging, rigid? Or are you always learning, growing, changing, just as I am? Do I imagine a God of rules and regulations, a God of perfect order? Or are you bending, moving, flowing? When I contemplate the divine, I contemplate nature, including my own nature, and I recognize the great source of creation. Nothing remains the same. Everything is transitioning, transforming, transcending its original borders. So maybe your first name is becoming. Not that which is, but that which will be. Let my prayer then be this: God of many names, show me what I am capable of. Amen and blessed be. Will you join me in sung response? There is a love holding me, there is a love holding us, the words in the order of service. At the end of this past fall, I picked the last dandelion from our yard. All that was left was about half of the white seeds. The others had been blown away to create more dandelions somewhere. I picked that dandelion and put the fluffy white seeds into a tiny glass jar. And marker on the top, I wrote wishes and placed the tiny jar on my altar at home. I thought there would be some time in winter when I would need something to carry a wish for me for a little while. And these seeds have tenacity. They held on when the cold winter winds started to pick up. They survived being trampled on by us and the dog. Seeds with this strength, with this patience, they are special. And still, these seeds sit in this jar. Even as the dandelions start to pop up soon, I couldn't find a wish worthy of these seeds. In this jar, the possibility of fields of dandelions. Adrienne Marie Brown writes that dandelions don't know if they are a weed or a brilliance. Luckily, the story that we tell about them doesn't impact their job or their work to create more dandelions, for the seeds to eventually return to the soil from which they began and start all over again. We are the ones who tell the story about the plant. Weeds or flowers, brilliance or blight, am I holding a potential mess? Or am I holding wishes still to be wished? We tell the story and make decisions based on our experiences, the stories we learn, the stories we change as we learn and grow, the stories we pass on. I have a good friend that I call when I'm really angry about something. You know, the kind of anger where you tell the story again and again, but each time it gets a little more dramatic, a little more intense. Something was said a little more harshly, right? That kind of anger. And this friend will listen to me for a while. They'll hear the story cycle through twice, maybe 3 times if I'm really worked up. And gently and lovingly, they ask, "What's another story you could tell about this moment?" What's another story? So generally, the next story is just as poisonous, though maybe this time I cast myself as the villain as I'm telling this story. What's another story? And another, as many as it takes to both calm down and to see that there are other possibilities. When Matthew, my spouse, and I lived in Boston, our car was towed 3 times. With only street parking and regular street cleaning, you had to remember which side of the street you were parked on, or else you would get towed. And for us, with only 1 car, getting towed meant walking 2 miles to the impound lot. It's a lot of time to think about what happened. And pay $150 to release your car each time. So we had a couple opportunities to practice this kind of storytelling, right? And it got a little more intense each time. By the 3rd time our car got towed, the city is against us. This is now personal. Did you see all those other cars? They just ignored? What? Boston? It's us, it's personal. When yelling at the city didn't do anything, the story turned. Matthew and I, you were supposed to remember to move the car, but I worked until 2 a.m. You were supposed to remind me. Yeah, but I was in class, and then the library. When yelling at each other didn't bring our car back or pay us $150, what's another story? We are both busy. We're going 100 directions all at the same time. It's both of our responsibilities to remember to move the car. What can we do together to make sure this doesn't happen again? Let's try setting an alarm on our phone. From blame to mutual responsibility and problem solving with an opportunity to share that deep weight we had both been carrying, needing to hear from one another how hard that time had been, this time had been. It took us a few stories to get there, but by the end we had this shared story we could learn from and feel good about. Institutions hold many stories in their walls. And often the story is told a little bit differently based on who is telling it. We all have some artistic license to share these stories. We can tell the stories of our history, what brought us to this church the first time, the relationships that nourished and sustained us. The stories of our children, of our grandchildren running through the halls, knowing, trusting that if nothing else, if they got nothing else from our time together, from church, they would get the foundation of love, of knowing their worth, of knowing each other's worth, what a gift it is to teach our children, to teach ourselves, each other, to know that each and every person is inherently worthy. And we have the stories we are still somewhere in the middle of writing. How do we continue to stay safe and connected while COVID is still a part of our experience? How do we process what we have collectively been through over the last 4 years? How have we changed? What do we still need to process and learn? What about our building? I believe we made the value-based decision to meet here, understanding the value and commitment to accessibility for folks to attend worship. I believe that was our values-based decision. What happens next? There are many stories and many hopes and many dreams and many wishes. The story that you all are still writing. That story is still being written as your team gathers so much information, as much information as they possibly can, to support the congregation making the best decision you can for this moment. I wish I knew the ending to that story. I wish I knew, but a good story takes time to develop. We have the opportunity to craft another story together. I sent out a letter on Thursday sharing the news that I will no longer be serving as the minister here at Olympia Brown after the end of this church year. My decision to leave is a story, one storyline that if you can join me, if you can hear this with me, this is the story. This is the story shared in the letter. As I have been considering the ministry, right, the work still to be done here at OBUUC with my own strengths and the areas of growth, my opportunities as a minister, I can say I am proud of the really hard work we've done and believe that it is time for someone else to support you into what comes next. It's challenging for ministers and congregations to reach this place in ministry. It is a hard thing. It is a hard decision to make. And our work now becomes parting well. That's the story we have to tell, the story we get to create together. Even if it takes a few rounds of storytelling to get to that point, right? If you need a space to be angry or to blame or to share disappointment or sadness, I am here to listen to that story. We will cycle together through it, but I'm going to ask, what's another way you could tell this story? We will create the story of this moment, of our time together, of how you all answered the call to live into your values. We agreed to have really hard conversations together. We weren't perfect. We did our best. We both learned a lot in this ministry together, and there is more learning still to come. We are always learning and changing, always writing our stories. When I was in college, I decided I wanted to learn ballet, specifically point ballet. Never having done ballet before, no ballet training, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I took the 1-credit PE class in ballet, and by the second semester, I was in point shoes. The story of my own life would include the 2 years that I spent as a ballerina. That would be in the story I would tell of my life. 2 years as a ballerina. And in ballet, it doesn't matter how long you have been dancing, how many performances you have been the lead in, or how many companies you have danced for. You always warm up at the ballet bar. You always go through the 5 positions, focused on posture, your toes pointed, your feet turned out. You always return to the bar because every basic ballet move will return to those 5 positions. And if you are struggling at the bar, that will only intensify when you get to the center of the floor. You constantly return to the basics. Practice the basics so you can do the hard, the intricate, the breathtaking dances. And then that dance will be over. The show will have finished its run, and it's time to start learning a new dance. You return to the bar, to center. Our center, the center of our faith tradition, the center of this church's beginning, a liberating love. We return to that love, the skills we learned with it, from it, always available when we need to work something out for a little while. The skills we learn in order to dance. We are a covenantal faith. This is the wall that helped build our theological house. If love is foundation, our covenant, our walls help us determine who we are, where we draw our boundaries. In order to be an active part of our tradition, we agree to covenants. We are non-creedal, which makes it really hard to answer the question, what do Unitarian Universalists believe anyway? Our framework isn't based on shared beliefs. Our framework is our covenant, our agreements, and how we will still be in relationship with one another. Even when things are hard, we will still be in relationship with one another, and that is strong enough to hold our faith tradition. That belief that we can be in deep enough relationship, and that's all we need to define us. Have you thought about how amazing that is? Amazing. We can be in that deep of relationship, that we can define who we are as a faith movement. This congregation has a covenant of right relations, and it is really long, so I'm not going to read it all here, but I have copies of it if you haven't read it in a while, and we'll make sure that it's in the weekly email. But I want to read the introduction of our covenant. This covenant is a solemn agreement. It formalizes our expectations of treating one another as we want to be treated. Being human and not perfect, we recognize that while we will strive to uphold the elements of this covenant, we will sometimes fail. And when that happens, we will refer to this covenant to help set us back on the right path as a reminder of our shared vision. Our shared vision, which we affirmed last year, we are a welcoming, inclusive, intergenerational congregation rooted in love, actively committed to spiritual growth and social justice, in service to our community and beyond. Our vision of what the world looks like because we are in it. We return to this covenant, holding and held by love. We practice this with one another. We call each other in as we need to, especially when things get really hard. We practice our covenants, we practice our values here, so when we are called to do the hard and complicated dance, we are prepared. We show up. We aren't doing it alone. And no matter how long we have been a Unitarian Universalist, no matter how many churches we have been to, how many ministries we have witnessed, still we return to our covenant, still we return to love at the center. May this love, our commitment to covenant, help us write and tell and share the stories that have been written and need to be retold, the stories that are somewhere in the middle, the stories still to be written. The smorg was not another bird. The smorg was all of them, and all of them were the smorg. They remembered that each of them had something good and strong and special inside of them, and that each bird has gifts to bring to the community. They were all that was needed to keep the community strong. They knew now that together they could do anything. Adrienne Marie Brown writes, dandelions don't know whether they are a weed or a brilliance, but each seed, she writes, each seed can create a field of dandelions. We are invited to be that prolific and to return fertility to the soil around us. Is a dandelion a weed or a brilliance? What story do we tell? And can we remember, honor the possibility that is each seed, that is each of us, filled with potential, staying close or going far, knowing we will each return to that soil around us, leaving only the stories we have told and the stories others will tell about us. Our dreams fulfilled, our dreams passed on. Our wishes fulfilled, our wishes passed on. Our wishes released, going where they may go, cultivating where they may cultivate. Still ours, but somehow now they're more than ours alone. While we are left trusting we will see them again. We will meet them again in the soil all around us. Dandelions don't know whether they are a weed or a brilliance. The story is ours to tell. Amen. May it be so. Will you join me now in singing? I invite you to rise in body and spirit. Join in singing hymn 175, We Celebrate the Web of Life. We extinguish our chalice. And hold on to the light shared in this community, the light that lives in each of us, reminding us that we are connected, held always in a larger love. Our worship is over, our service begins. We are one. May we allow the magic and mystery, often named Spirit, to keep us connected long after today's service has ended. Go forth in love. Go forth sharing that love with those you meet until we return again.